Good afternoon. Today we're going to be talking about the topic of hermeneutics. My name is Nick Shavers and excited to give this presentation today. Hermeneutics is really what that means is interpreting a text. And specifically, we're talking about today the Bible, interpreting the Bible. So we know that the Bible is split into two different parts, both the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Old Testament has 39 books. The New Testament has 27 books, and the goal for Bible translators is really to pull out the meaning of the original text. So we know that the original text of the Old Testament was written in Hebrew, and we know that the New Testament was written in Greek, was also some Aramaic mixed in there. But it's looking at the original text within its context. We know there's different types of translations, like formal equivalents, ranging all the way down to functional equivalents with a middle ground as well. So the formal equivalence is more word for word based on the original text, and the functional equivalence is more thought for thought based on how it would make sense within our language today. And so really, in my opinion, the best is to find a middle ground between these two because we want to have the original text, but we also want it to make sense within our understanding today. My favorite translation is the NIV translation, but we also see where um, there's many word for word like the KJV, the ESV, NKJV, and then we also see more thought for thought texts like the Message translation, also sometimes referred to as a paraphrase, and also the NLT. So there are seven superhuman qualities about the Bible as we really study it. The Bible is scientifically accurate. The Bible is also historically accurate. When it's all studied out, that it proves science to be right and it proves history to be true. The Bible has perfect unity in that it all works together. The Bible has accurately predicted the future. We know through many different Bible prophecies that that's true. The Bible perfectly answers questions. And so many questions of life, makes it a superhuman quality because of the questions it answers. And then we also know just the personality of Jesus. What Jesus accomplished for us is a superhuman quality for sure. And then we also have the persistence of the Bible, of how the Bible's continued to carry throughout the ages. So we've got some different rules when working through biblical hermeneutics. The first ones in the simplest form is really define the terms. Look at what the actual words mean within the text. But then also remember that context is key. We can't look at a text without first looking at its context, looking at the maybe the historical background, maybe the cultural background, maybe the social background of the text. And then ultimately look to Jesus. Look for Jesus in the text, but always start with prayer. We want to always start our study in the scriptures with prayer. So let's look at this term exegesis. This is the process of careful analytical study of the Bible to produce useful interpretations of those passages. So we often use the term to exegete from the text, to explain, to narrate, to show the way. Okay? Now let's look at eisegesis. This means reading meaning into the text that isn't there. So exegesis is pulling the correct things out of the text. Eisegesis means reading stuff into the text that isn't there. And so hermeneutics focuses on the principles of interpretation, whereas exegesis applies those principles. Exegesis, I'm reminded of the passage in 2 Timothy 2:15 where Paul is instructing Timothy to rightly divide the word of truth. Here's some common ways that people misuse the Bible. Number one, starting to quote the Old Testament rules when you want to govern someone's behavior. Definitely something you don't want to do. Um, a common misconception is to assume the Bible's all about you. It's really not. It's about Jesus. Number three, to attempt to arrive at meaning without first understanding the culture it's written to. Number four, to discount the fact that it wasn't originally written in English. Know the language that it was written in, very important. And let it point you to anything other than Jesus. That would be dangerous to let the text point you like that. So, why should I study the Old Testament? Because Jesus did. The disciples quoted the Hebrew Bible, as did Paul. And to know, to fully be able to comprehend the messianic prophecy and to understand New Testament